Hi everyone, my name is Jenny and welcome back to my creative space. Happy New Year to everybody. Today is the first Saturday of 2025 and I thought it would be a good time to start a weekly reading vlog and the first vlog of 2025. I genuinely don't have too much plans. The only thing in my personal life that I have planned is redoing my nails. I currently have my holiday New Year's nails on and I really want to cut my nails short, so I'm gonna get that done today while I read some of the book that I'm in the middle of, which is Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. I am about 40% into this book and really eating it up. Honestly, at this point, nothing too intense has happened, but I'm just having a silly old time. And the whole theme of this reading vlog this week is basically just really heavily leading into mood reading. The first couple of days of the year, I was like, I'm really in the reading mood, and I just could not decide what in the world to pick. And my library gave me the audiobook for Daisy Hates, and I was like, okay, the library gods have spoken, and that's going to be the first book of the year for me. And then the other book that I have on the docket is The Anjin Murders by Seshi Yokomizo. And this book I bought on a whim like a month ago, and I just not picked it up yet because I wasn't really in a murder mystery mood. But this one is quite short, and I am participating in a little cozy readathon, and this only has 189 pages, and it's quite small pages. The book is tiny, so there that is for the pages. So that is going to be my first mood read after Daisy Hates. Today is the start of a mood reading vlog, and I am so happy to have you along with me. I will start doing my nails, and then I think I will give you as much of a non-spoiler update for Daisy Hates. So I wanted to show you my plant that I featured in my reorganizing my bookshelf video. My monstera that I propagated and then planted has a new leaf coming. What a beautiful way to start the new year, honestly. I am so excited to see how it goes. I've repositioned the plant because it's good to rotate your plants ever so often, apparently. And hopefully the leaves that are pointing towards the wall will slowly migrate over to face the window. And then also my Swiss cheese plant has a new leaf that has slowly started to unspiral itself. If I could just see right there, so cute. But that's a plant update. I also have a new leaf coming out from this plant here. I think this plant is called a philodendron, something like that, or is that the family? I don't know specifically the names. And then my rubber plant also has a new leaf sprouting, which is very happy and and also my other philodendron has a new one coming in as well. But what a beautiful and happy thing to have in the new year. But yeah, that was my plant update. I think I'll do a little bit of a check-in for Daisy Hates now since I am 40% in. Basically, this just follows Daisy Hates, obviously, and her brother Julian. What I really like about the Daisy books is that we don't only get the perspective of Daisy and Christian, who is her love interest, but we also get the perspective of Julian, who is Daisy's brother. And Julian is one of my favorite characters in the series, so I really like and enjoy that we get to have his perspective. Obviously, this is the fourth book in the Magnolia Parks universe, but also the second book for Daisy Hates specifically, so I won't get too deep into details, but we're just following her as she's trying to navigate her life within the gang and her questioning whether she wants to be part of it still or if she's trying to have like a normal life. And there's some complicated relational dynamics between her and Christian, and they're trying to work their way through whatever they're going through currently. I think is also interesting about the Magnolia and Daisy books is that it follows the timeline in parallel to the Magnolia books. So everything that happened and went down in Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, we're following the same exact timeline, but through the perspective of Daisy Hates and Christian. What is Christian's last name? Christian Jonah something. Jonah is his brother, but for some reason I don't know Christian's last name. Like everybody else, I know every single one of their last names but him. So sorry to Christian. But it's interesting because it's not one of those plot points or stories where you're following the parallel timeline and then feeling like it's too repetitive, because Daisy and Magnolia don't really run around the same circles. Like they are featured in each other's books ever so often, but they're going through such different life experiences because, you know, one is in a freaking mob and the other one's just like a socialite. There's so much different chaotic things that they're going through, so it's not super entangled. It's one of those books where it's like nothing really happens, but at the same time, like a lot of character things happen, but it's a lot of repetitive character things that happen. But it's something that I've really just enjoyed. And in the past year, I've just leaned into like, if you're enjoying it, there's no need for an explanation. But yeah, that is my update for Daisy Hates. Again, being extremely vague because I don't want to potentially spoil anybody. Although I feel like there's not much to spoil. I think maybe Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, there's like several things that can be like spoiled, but in this one, nothing's necessarily really happened. So like, it's not like I'm spoiling anything by saying like she's navigating this complicated family dynamic. I'm gonna go do my nails now. I'm probably actually gonna watch a YouTube video while I do my nails so that I can like really hone in and focus on nail prep, but I think I will show you some of the stuff that I do while I do my nails. Hello folks, I am back. The nails are done. I went for something simple since I wanted to cut my nails short this time around, but I will be growing them out throughout this month because I am planning to do like a jade nail set for Lunar New Year's, which I'm very excited. Jade nails are like my favorite things to do because they just look so nice and so dimensional. And it gives me Aitmata vibes from Green Moon Saga, which I love. I am going to chat about some 2025 goals, a little bit of personal ones as well as some bookish ones. I think we'll go ahead and cover some personal goals now, and then we'll get into the bookish ones in a little bit. But one of the big goals that I have this year is to actually make a wish list of items and things that I want to purchase. I kind of want to cut down on my purchasing this year. Not that I feel like I purchased an exuberant amount of things, but I think I had purchased a lot of like little miscellaneous bits and bobs over the last year of like skincare items and things like that I like saw online, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go purchase that, I'm gonna go buy that, versus I'm going to be more intentional about purchasing like what are items in my closet that I would really like to add and that I don't really have. So I'm making like a whole list of those items in my Hobonichi weeks. And once a quarter, I guess, I'll go back and like review the items that I have listed on there and see like if I still want that item, if it's an item that I still think that I will use and have a lot of value in having it added into my life. And then also I want to use the items that I've already purchased. So one of the things is like my makeup and my skincare. I don't wear makeup that often, especially because I work from home a lot of the work week. I'm not really putting on makeup. So I would like to use the products because, you know, makeup products do expire and I do want to do kind of, it's not that I ever do full glam, but it is something that I want to be a little bit more intentional with, like actually using the products that I purchase, as well as like skincare. Last year I went to Japan and I bought some sheet masks for myself, and I bought them in like these boxes that have about around 30 in there, and I just keep on forgetting to use them. And I think I just have this object permanence issue where it's like, if it's not in front of me, I forget that I have that item. So I want to be intentional with using a sheet mask at least once every day. So I'm put the box, one of the boxes that I bought, I put it on my counter. I have this thing where I like to have the counter clear, but you know, if I'm not using the item, I'm gonna have to just leave it on the damn counter and be okay with that. So that is one of my goals, to use up my products. So I am changing that come 2025, and I'm being very intentional with like wearing and using the products that I buy, and I don't have to wait for a very specific time to use those items. And then another thing that I want to do in my personal life for 2025 is stretching before bed. I'm not going to hold myself to do anything like too intense. Like I don't have to do a whole like 30-minute yoga flow. Like I could touch my toes for a minute and that can count for stretching before bed. I have like a lot of stress and tension in my shoulders, and I feel that when I'm trying to sleep. Like I have a lot of like neck pain because of the strain in my shoulders, and like, you know, the shoulder muscles affect the neck muscles. So I want to be more intentional with being more aware of my physical health in that way. And I think stretching is a very easy and like not too rigorous and intense of a physical activity. And I definitely want to put my mobility in mind this year. And, you know, I'm only 27, but it's never too early or late to start something that helps improve your physical well being. One of my psychology professors said that it takes 21 days to build a habit. So, crossing my fingers that I can do a little 5-minute stretch, you know, a little shoulder stretch, a little leg stretch before bed. And I'm hoping that also improves my sleep as well. One of my big goals is to knit myself this little sweater vest. I'll put a reference photo of the pattern that I purchased off of Etsy. I'm currently learning crochet, and I'm crocheting a very basic half double crochet stitched scarf right now. And then once I finish that project, I'm going to start learning the basics of knitting and hopefully get into making my very first little knitted vest thing. And then on the ends of bookish goals, this is kind of the same with like my personal goals. I want to read what I own. I have a Kindle, and again, it kind of reflects like my thing with skincare. On my Kindle, I forget that I have the books that are on there. Like I really do have an issue with like remembering that they even exist unless it's on the cover of the Kindle screen. All the other books on there are kind of poof, they don't exist. And so I made myself an Excel sheet where I am going to keep track of all the books that I own digitally as well as physically, and mark when I read them and kind of just reevaluate, is that something that I am interested in? A lot of the books that I have are kind of ones that I got on Kindle sales. And obviously there were ones that I was interested in. So it's not that I just did like a whole stuff your Kindle day and I got a bunch of books that I'm not interested in. All of the books on there are books that I know that I will read. I just forget that they're there. On the ends of book purchasing, last year I did this thing where I would borrow the book on Libby first, read the book, and if I liked it, I could purchase it. I didn't hold myself too strongly to that, and so I kind of want to switch it around where I am definitely going to check the book out from my library first. Within the 30 to 50% mark of me reading the book, if it's something that I feel very strongly about, I will allow myself to purchase it instead of being like, oh, you have to finish it, then you can purchase the book. And then also, I'm able to purchase the books that I've put on my anticipated releases. I have a list that I wrote in my Hobonichi, and I think I have like one book on there that I didn't put in my anticipated release video, but I'm allowing myself to purchase that list of things without having to already had the book checked out from Libby, and hopefully that works out. I've been much better about my book purchasing though. Like I haven't really just gone ham and just bought like a bunch of books because I've just not been that interested in physically owning all the books that I read. And unless I really, really like it and know that I'm going to reread it or I want to annotate it, I don't have that big of a want to purchase them. And also, like, books have been getting so pricey these days, especially paperbacks. I love myself a floppy paperback, and they are so pricey these days. I am slowly repurchasing my Robin Hobb reads. And what I'm doing is when I'm reading it is when I will purchase the book. So I am going to be reading Assassin's Apprentice, and that one I've already purchased for myself. But once I finish that one, and then I'm ready to start my second read for Royal Assassin, is when I'm going to go out and buy the book. But geez, like the book is like 20 something dollars for a paperback. And I'm like, remember when paperbacks were like $10 to $15 max? Those were the good old days when I didn't appreciate the pricing of a paperback. And then hardcover books are like $35. Jeez. And then on the ends of my goals for reading, this past year I read 114 books. And I kind of set myself up for a stretch goal. So at the beginning of 2024, I did 24 books, so 2 books a month. And then when I hit that goal, I did 50, and then I hit that goal, and then I just never changed it. So this year, I'm going to do the same stretch goal. So I set my reading to 24 books, and then once I hit the 24, I'm probably going to just push it up to 50. I don't know why 50. I guess I just like the round number of it. But maybe we'll do like 52, so a book a week. And then once I hit 52, we'll push it to another number. And then we'll do like that kind of stretch goal thing. I think it's a nice little dopamine hit every single time you hit your goal. And then it's not as daunting as putting like 150 books on your, you have to reach this goal at the end of the year. It's kind of like a little encouragement of meeting yourself at each checkpoint, and I think that will be really beneficial to me. Yeah, those are the goals that I have for myself personally. There are other things on here that I just don't really want to get into, but my bookish goals are pretty straightforward. I'm not holding myself too intensely to any goal because it is my hobby. It's supposed to be fun and relaxing for me. So that is what we are planning for this year, and I am hoping that this year is my year. I'm not hoping, I believe that this year is my year. We have to speak as if it has already happened and all the good things are here for us. That aside, I am going to update you on my reading. While I did my nails, I got to 50% of Daisy Hates, and not much has really happened in that end, but there have been a few scenes that we saw in Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home in parallel to this one, but we get it in the viewpoint of Julian, and just being in his internal mind is kind of silly. Like, he is a much sillier character than what was let on in the very first book that we were introduced to him. And I just really love his character. My friend Lori, who is a big fan of the Magnolia Park series, said that things kind of get a little crazy, and I'm a little scared on how crazy that it'll get. Um, so, yeah. Jessa Hastings, please don't do anything to Julian. I love that character so much. Like, I know that in real life, I probably would not hang out with a man like him. But in a book, he's a fun time. And I just like the type of burdens that he's shouldering and the very obvious things that he's doing in order to like keep himself safe. He kind of pushes away emotional investment in other people so that he can't get hurt in that way, and like his other enemies in the like gang life aren't can't use those things against him, because he's like, well, if I've never been invested in anybody, who are you going to use against me? Like, obviously besides his sister, but like there's nobody else that he has like a tie to. And I don't know, it seems like he's really struggling with kind of that self isolation, and I think it's an interesting character to follow. And I really want him to have his own book, despite him having his own point of view in the Daisy Hates books. But like Daisy Hates, it's about Daisy. Like his storyline and her storyline, although connected, are so different with what they're struggling with. And I think Julian, like his own book, would just be so fun, because then we could get really in depth with what he's doing for the game. Hello, I have some updates for you. If it looks like I've been crying, it's because of this book. I'm just kidding. I am cooking and I cut an onion, and I don't know what it is about onions these days, like especially during the holiday season. Those onions were messing me up. They stung so bad. I don't know what it is in the crop, but it's really getting to me. Anyway, for Daisy Hates, I'm around 60% into the book. And I stopped last night because there was a chapter with Julian that really had me in my feelings. I was like, Jessa, why would you write this? Oh my god. I know that he's a bad person. I feel like if you've ever read Vera Wong, in the book, she like suspects certain people of being like the murderer, and she's still so sweet and so kind to them, despite the fact that she thinks one of them could have possibly killed somebody. And that's how I feel about Julian. I'm like, I'm sure you've done a lot of bad things, and we've been told that you've done a lot of bad things, but I want something good to happen to you. And Jessa Hastings is a Julian hater, honestly, the pain she's putting that man through. Yesterday, before I went to bed, I started the Onjin murders. This one, I don't think I told you the concept of this book, but it basically is like a murder mystery. And we follow like this amateur novelist, I believe he is, and he moves over to this prefecture where these people know that he's kind of an amateur novelist for murder mystery specifically. And the people are like, oh, have you heard about the case of the Onjin murder? And he's like, no, I've not heard about it. And they're like, oh, and they tell him about this bride and bridegroom who were murdered on the night of their wedding. And at the scene of the crime, there was a samurai sword that was left there, and it was very bloody and gruesome. And for him, as an amateur novelist, he's hearing about the setup of the crime, and he's like, you know, not to be disrespectful to the dead, but I am so glad that I've been given this case, because it is a classic locked room mystery. It's quite short. It's only 189 pages. This also is a award-winning classic murder mystery in Japan. I believe the author Seishi Yokomizo is like the first ever person to win like a murder mystery writing prize in Japan. Let's see. Yeah, in 1948, he won the first Murder Mystery Writers of Japan award, which is fun. And then this series, we follow Kendaichi, who is like the amateur sleuth here, and he has like around 70. The book says that the Kosuke Kendaichi series runs about 77 books, which is wild. I think the translation into English only has, I think, 5 or 6 out currently, and I'm sure the translator Louise Hill Kawai is still most likely working on the other translations. I think the translation is done quite well because it's smooth and it doesn't feel too clunky, and the characters still have the personality that needs to be there. It's not too dry. So from what I'm experiencing so far, I think the translation is done quite well. Having a great time with the reading that I have, and I think mood reading for the beginning of the year is probably the best choice that I've made. Hi everyone, happy Monday. I just clocked out of work and I have some reading updates for you. I finished Daisy Hates, and we'll talk about this in a second. This was the first book I finished for the year of 2025, so great reading this, I guess. And then my second book that I finished was The Onjin Murders. I'm going to talk about this one first because I don't have too much to say. It was quite a quick read, 189 pages. It is a classic locked room murder mystery, and I really like that it got straight to the point of the mystery, laying everything down. We do follow our main character, Kendaichi, who is like the overarching detective for all of the little serial murders that are happening within the whole series. And we don't get to know too much about the character, but this definitely is a more plot forward read. And if you are looking for a very bite-sized palate cleanser murder mystery, I think this series is something that you can try out. And I had a good time. This is like a 3-star, which is a good rating. So I highly recommend that you try this out. It's a very quick read, and I feel like throughout this year, this will be a series that I come back to, most likely borrowing from my library, but something that I can read as a palate cleanser. And then Daisy Hates. Folks, I am very unwell. I'm very unwell. I didn't think that I was going to have that emotional reaction because I think in the other updates that I had made, the plot it's not too plot focused. The whole series in general, it's more so about a look into relational dynamics in this series. But because Daisy Hates very much mirrors the plot points and events of Magnolia Park, you basically know most of what's happening in this one because you're going to be reading the Magnolia Parks books first. So the things that happen in here aren't too much of a surprise, but the character point of view that you get for specific events is just so heart-wrenching. Like, it's not that serious, but it is. And I feel like Jessa Hastings stabbed me at the end of Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home. And then she took that, stabbed me in another place, and twisted it. I really love Daisy as a character. I love the storyline with her being like part of a gang family but trying to be normal and like become a doctor, and she's striving for something different to take her out of this life. And then her like loyalty to her brother, and like her brother Julian obviously is my fave. I'm very unwell. And Jessa Hastings doesn't have any news on another book for Daisy hates. I'm pretty sure Magnolia Park's Into the Dark is the last Magnolia Park's book, and then this one is just in the middle, so I'm not sure what the update on this is, and I think that is truly criminal. If you don't like this series, which I definitely understand why you wouldn't like this, because nothing really happens and it's really not that serious at all, but like to me right now it is that serious, and I didn't know that I would get to this point in this series where it was that serious for me. Oh, and my rating, I'm gonna give it a cheeky little 5-star. To be honest, first book of the year being a 5-star, fantastic way to start the year, even though I acquired a lot of emotional damage. But great to have a 5-star. Love being here, love having a emotional response to a book, love being emotionally invested to a book. So I guess it's a win for me, even though it was a very painful win. Please give Julian a happy ending. I don't think she will, but I think that man deserves a little bit of joy. Not like a little bit of a crumble of joy, like he deserves to have and hold the joy in his life. And I don't think Jessa Hastings is going to give that to him, so I'm just here. And Daisy also deserves joy, and Magnolia also deserves joy. Everybody in here, maybe a few people don't, but most of these people should have joy, and Jessa Hastings is like, how about no? But anyway, I am going to get going and get ready for the night, have dinner and everything. I think my mood is striking me to pick up Blood Over Bright Haven. I did sample the audiobook for that the other day. That is going to be the read that I pick up next. I also wanted to sample out The Lady of Darkness. I might read that before bed or sample that while I eat my dinner, but we'll see. And then probably, most likely tomorrow, I will give you an update on Blood Over Bright Haven and The Lady of Darkness, and tell you all about what those books are about. Hello everyone, I am here to give you an update. I have made some progress with Blood Over Bright Haven. I'm around 27% into the audiobook and I'm having a decent time. The premise of this is that we follow our main character Siona, who is going through, it almost seems like a magical PhD program. She is a high mage and like the first woman in history to be a high mage, and she is attempting to acclimate to this very male dominated industry, and she kind of gets, I don't think hazing is the right word, like they obviously don't like her and are discriminating against her because of her gender, and so these high mages are supposed to have assistants and she doesn't have one, and one of the men in her department is like, oh, you can just have the janitor. And the thing is the janitor in this department is someone of a different race and ethnicity, and there's obviously a lot of discrimination, racism towards his specific ethnic group. And so we are watching Siona navigate, obviously, the sexism that comes with being in this industry that is male dominated, and like all of their very terrible treatment of her and like kind of undermining her experience and intelligence, and all putting it up to like, oh, you just probably stepped your way up to the position that you're in. And then we also are watching Sayona kind of battle with the sort of societal stereotypes that she has learned about Tamil's people. And I just find it very interesting getting to see her perspective, because like obviously as the only woman in her department, her complaints about the mistreatment that she has is very valid, like 100% valid. When I am listening to the audio narrator kind of mimic the way these men are treating her, it makes my skin crawl. Like, I think as a woman, I've been there before, and so I really feel for her. And then there's these scenes that she has with Tomo, and it's not necessarily that she says all these things to his face, but it's like the internal dialogue that she has is like, oh wow, like he smells really nice. I thought his people don't bathe. Or like, they populate like rabbits or whatever. And like very she'll think these very like micro aggressive thoughts, and I'm just like, Sayona girl, you are complaining about people discrediting you because you're a woman, and then in the same breath you discredit and have these stereotypes for your assistant because he's of a different ethnic background that you don't understand. And I'm like, for an intelligent woman, I need you to stop thinking about yourself for a second. And I think it's funny because in the second chapter is when she's kind of like getting introduced to a higher position in this academy, and she's like, oh, this is a big thing for women, like I am innovating for women, I'm opening the gates for women. And her family is like, do you actually really care about like what benefit it has for other women, or do you just care about yourself? And I'm like, well, at least other people see her for what she is, right? As of now, it seems pretty slow paced. Like we are in her like academic office. She's working towards this specific project. It's like a 70-day time frame that we are sitting at right now. And so I'm assuming like the bigger plot point is conjoined with the project that she is currently working on with Tomo. But yeah, 27% in, making some good leeway on that one. And then yesterday I did sample a chapter of Lady of Darkness. Not too many things to say quite yet because it is the first chapter. I know this is also K. Rorich's first debut novel, and so I'm keeping my expectations of this one like pretty mid-range. I don't know if I've said this before, but I this year am really trying to hone in and see what in fanro I really like and enjoy. I know last year I had quite a few misses, but I don't want to just completely write out the entire subgenre of fanro because I picked up some really popular releases and that didn't work for me. So this year I'm trying to lean a little bit more tonally towards darker fanro and seeing if potentially that works for me. But with Lady of Darkness, we follow our main character, Scarlet, who is part of this assassin group. Her and her two sisters are like the most feared assassins in the entire land. And I'm like, okay, so we have a baddie on our hands. She is given this specific mission, and if she completes the mission, she'll be given, I don't know if it's specifically the chance to take revenge or just more information towards revenge towards the man who ended up putting out a hit on her mother. At the beginning of the book, you know that her mother was murdered, and so she is trying to find out more information about the man who killed her mother, or asked for her mother to be killed. And I think that's the basic premise that I know. There's not much else that I know currently. Obviously, it's fanro, so there's gonna be a little bit of a romance. I think that it's an enemies to lovers. Don't quote me on that because, again, I've only read one chapter and the synopsis that I read was pretty basic, pretty straightforward. I didn't want to read too much of the synopsis there, but I think this is going to be a fun time. I know on Hoopla there is an audiobook, so I think I'm going to check out the audiobook as well so that I can get some things done. I am feeling a little bit in the romance mood right now, and I don't know if I want to pick up like a new romance read or maybe like reread a manga. We'll see. And most of my romance mood is coming from the fact that I finished watching Yakuza Fiance, the anime, just the other day, and I'm like, wow, what a fun, silly, toxic romance Yakuza Fiance is. It's just very out of pocket. That man is so wild. Kirishima, the main character in Yakuza Fiance, like, if I ever met him on the street, running the other direction. But watching him on this little anime, I'm like, you are a very interesting man. Very interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna go now because I don't have anything else to update you regarding my reading, but hopefully I get a good ways into Lady of Darkness and then I can kind of solidify some of my thoughts on this one since, first chapter, not much to say. Hello, I am here to do an update of Lady of Darkness and also Blood over Brighthaven. My update for Lady of Darkness is going to be quick because I'm only 10% in, and we definitely are setting up our character Scarlet, and the plot currently is just her training and building up to the mission that she's been given, and I really appreciate this sort of slow build with the world and just getting to really understand our main character specifically so that I can have like a little bit more of an emotional investment with her, and I'm having a good time. My experience with this is kind of reminding me of how I felt with Serpent in the Wings of Night. This sort of kind of lone wolf baddie kind of character is what I'm picking off of her. I think Scarlet is less of a lone wolf than our main character in Serpent in the Wings of Night. I can't remember her name at this moment. I think Scarlet has a little bit more of a support system around her. The one thing that I don't like in this book is that her friend Cassius calls her Sea Star. I don't know why the hell he calls her Sea Star. It's not explained. It's like his little nickname for her because they're besties. But I'm like, could we just call her Scarlet? Like, could we not do this? Because it's like every scene he comes in, he's like, oh, there's my Sea Star. Like, oh, there's my favorite person and my Sea Star. I haven't seen Sea Star in so long. And I'm like, there's something about Fanro and their love of a silly little nickname. I don't mind a nickname, but I think building up to when the nickname is given, I mean, like, given that these people have been friends off page, we've not seen, but like, to just be dropped in and to be like, Sea Star, who the hell's that? Why is that? Like, it's not a big issue, right? But then every single time I read Sea Star, I'm like, I'm gonna just graze over this word. I'm gonna white it out. I can't white it out, it's on my Kindle, but yeah, that's the only thing that's bothering me, but thus far I'm having a silly goofy time, and I really am excited that potentially Lady of Darkness could be a fanro that works for me. Crossing my fingers because 2025 is my year where I journey to find a fanro that really works for me and that I'm really obsessed with. The other update that I have is Blood over Brighthaven. I am 45% into the book. I'm not hating the book. I think the book is pretty solid. Right now I'm leaning between like a 3.5 to 4-star rating. 3.5 mostly because like not a lot has gone on. It's mostly been Sayona in her office at the college and like working on this sort of project that she wants to be the lead of. And so we've just been in her office as she's like studying kind of thing. And we're learning a lot about the world. But I'm having a not so positive time in the fact that Sayona is such a frustrating character. I understand why we are following the book in her perspective and exactly what Emma Wong is trying to tell us and like the messaging. And I think it's done incredibly well. Almost too well. Because I would jump into that book and fight Siona. Like, her microaggressions, her internalized racism, her stereotyping of Tamil is pissing me off. Like, I just finished chapter 10, and within chapter 9, chapter 10, there's like this lead up to this conversation she has with Tamil that kind of expands the world and also explains the magic system that's going on in here. And the way she treats Tamil is almost in this righteous fashion because she's like, oh, like, he's Quinn, but like, I don't treat him like all my other male colleagues treat him. Like, I speak to him, I treat him like a human being, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other hand, she'll have like these internalized thoughts about like, oh, that's interesting. I thought like the Quinn people didn't read and didn't know this and that. Like, she even tells him to his face up until this point, like, he's explaining something about the magic system and how he understands it. And he's like, oh, this stuff feels familiar to me because this, and that. And she's like, oh, that's strange. I didn't know Quinn people could read. So that, I don't know if that makes sense to me because your people can't read. And he's like, well, how the hell do you think I'm here studying with you, having this sort of conversation, referencing academic texts, if I can't read? And she's like, oh, you're not like other Quinn. You're educated. And I'm like, ML, cut the cameras. Cut the cameras. I sat there and I was like, because she's been saying all these things internally. She's been keeping it really tight-lipped when like conversing with Tomo. But this, she was just so excited to talk about whatever the hell they were talking about that it just like slipped right out of her mouth. And she's like, oh, probably shouldn't say that. So then she was like, but you're not like other Quinn. You're better because you know how to read. And I'm just like, okay. And then there's like this section in chapter 10 where she decides to do something. She's very aware of the consequences of the action that she is going to do. And she knows that it's going to be very upsetting to her if she does this. But she goes along anyway and does it, and then gets upset with the consequences of her actions, despite her knowing exactly the consequence. And then she sits there and she cries about it. Like, oh my God, woe is me. And I'm like, you've already experienced it once, you knew what was going to happen, and you do it again, and then you're like, oh, but I'm the victim. Tamil is a better person than me, honestly. He is a better person than me. But those are my updates. You know, glad that I'm reading things that are making me feel something. You know, not that I need to feel something in every single book, but I'd like to have some sort of reaction to when I read because, you know that I'm gaining something from it. Not that I am like looking for something life-changing, but to have like some sort of emotional reaction is fun in a read. Like, even if it's like, oh, this is so silly goofy, right? But sometimes I'm like, why do I like books that really frustrate me and piss me off? Maybe I should go ask my therapist about that. But I'm gonna go now and get some things done. And I'm hoping to make more leeway into Lady of Darkness because I am having a good time. And I'll probably revisit Siona in her little academic office tomorrow because she's really pissing me off. And I don't want to see her again. So I'm going to wait to read more of Blood Over Brighthaven tomorrow. And I don't know, maybe finish it by Friday because today's Wednesday. Yeah, so I'm projecting Friday, hopefully finishing Blood Over Brighthaven. Happy Friday, everyone. I am getting ready to go out, but I wanted to do an update. Yesterday, I did not update you on my reading for Blood Over Brighthaven. I stopped at chapter 17, so I think it's around 65-ish% into the book. And I was planning 100% to finish it yesterday because chapter 17, there was a really interesting plot development that was going on there. And then my audiobook paused because apparently I used all of my Spotify hours and I had no idea that I had used all my Spotify hours because I completely forgot that I had listened to something else while I was cleaning with my Spotify hours because I was reading a book and then I put it down and I still wanted to read it, so I used the Spotify hours. And then so I cut into my time for Blood Over Brighthaven, which is honestly a tragedy because it was getting really interesting. And I really wanted to know what the next plot point was. And now I'm just going to have to wait until my library gives me the audiobook hold. So there's that. I thought that I would be able to finish it and give you an update and give you a review, but unfortunately, I played myself. But I do have an update regarding Lady of Darkness. I've gotten to, I believe, 30% into the book, and we are starting up on Scarlet's mission. Like, she has more information about what's going on, and there's more relational development between her and like one of the people who like trains the king's like guards. I think he's like a general or something like that. Don't really know his specific title, but he is someone who it seems like he knows much more about Scarlet than like Scarlet herself knows, or he has like these certain inklings, which personally I think it's kind of obvious what the like secrets about herself are that she doesn't know or she's not privy to. And we got to meet like this other prince character, and I do sense a little love triangle coming on with these little the prince guy. The thing is this other general dude I think is into her. With them, it's not even like an enemies to lover vibe. It's like she just genuinely doesn't give a shit about him. Which is like, that's tough, buddy, because he's clearly into her. And she's just like, you're fucking annoying. And you know what? Fair. Very fair. But I am really interested in her relationship with this prince that we just met at 30% because there's a lot of yearning that seems to be going on. Like, they've had this little reunion chapter, and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. One thing about me, especially in fantasy, like a lot of the fantasies that I've read that have like a sort of romance side plot tend to have this really deep yearning because like the love interests, they're not together in like the fantasies that I've read, not fan wrote, like just specifically fantasy with a like sometimes not even like a subplot. It's like the sub of the subplot is this little romance going on. And like that kind of yearning of like the crew's not together, they're desperate to see each other again. Like that is my bread and butter. Love that. So this little side thing with this prince, with Scarlet, I'm eating it up. I am eating it up. And like, we don't really know what went down between the two, but there seems to be a lot of grief, yearning, wanting going on there. But like something is not allowing them to be together. And I'm like, oh yeah, I love this. Honestly, I don't think the prince is going to be the end game, which is kind of sad. Cannot confirm. This is just me suspecting, so I'm not like giving you a spoiler. But I just have a feeling that it's not that man. And I'm like, oh, how sad. How sad for that guy. This man is so down bad that when they meet again after like being separated, he sees her and he's like, is that really you, or am I just having a hallucination because I missed you that badly? Like, please tell me you're real. And I'm like, sorry, but that's fantastic. I love when a character is so down bad like that. Like, yeah. But, you know, I pray that he has a little good, happy, little silly ending, because I don't know if the happy ending is going to be with Scarlet, unfortunately. But I'm going to get going now, and then hopefully I will give you a good update on Lady of Darkness tomorrow. And I'm here to close out the vlog. First and foremost, if throughout this vlog my volume and like quality things kind of are up and down, I am working with a new setup, so I do apologize about the volume if it's like too low in the beginning. I imported some of the clips that I took on my camera the other day, and I was like, wow, the volume is very low. I thought I had turned up the volume on my mic, but I didn't, so hopefully this clip has a better sound. I'll try to see if I can edit it in editing to see if it can all match up in a line, but it'll be much lower than all the other times that I've vlogged on my camera. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this vlog. In this vlog, I finished Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. This was a 5-star read and my first read of the year. Honestly, the emotion that I experienced in this book, I did not know that I was going to be this emotionally invested in the Magnolia Parks universe. But here I am, crying. I did not actually cry, but like just emotionally, I was in a group chat with one of my friends, Lori, who loves this series, and just screaming at her like, I don't know, it's just so interesting to me. And like, what I really want is not only an update on the next Daisy book, but like Julian to have his own book would be something that I really want. But you know, who knows with Jessa Hastings. And then the second book that I finished in this vlog was The Ungen Murders. This one was a 3-star solid murder mystery. I had a very interesting time with it, and I would say that if you want a really good bite-sized palate cleanser murder mystery, this is a series I definitely would direct you to, because it's very straight to the point. Like, we're not dilly and daddling. The entire time we are following the same detective, Kendaichi, and he's just laying out the information of what was going on, and we get recounts of people who were at the scene of the crime. And I just think the way that it was paced was so good, because like it kept my interest the entire time. I believe that I've already said that in Japan this series has about 77 novels, but I think here in the US it's around like 6 or 7 ones that have been translated. But definitely a good bite-sized murder mystery, and something that you can finish within a day or two. The 2 books that I'm currently in the middle of is Blood Over Brighthaven. I'm at 65% in that, and hopefully we'll be finishing that soon once I get a hold of the audiobook. And then 30% of Lady of Darkness, which I'm really enjoying, and hopefully I continue to enjoy the entire series. But thank you so much for being here with me as I vlog my very first vlog of 2025. I had a lot of enjoyable reads this week, and yeah, I just hope that the reading year of 2025 goes as positively as this reading vlog has gone. If you want any further updates about my reading, you can follow me on Goodreads or Storygraph that I have linked down below. And if you like this video, you can like and subscribe, and I will be doing many more reading vlogs this year. Also, if you want to comment and tell me what your first read of 2025 is, I'd be really interested in knowing. If you don't have anything else to say, let's put a daisy. I don't know if daisies are in the comments, or some sort of flower in the comment section. That would be great to let me know that you are here. And thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye!